My son's wedding should have been the happiest day of my life. I paid for everything. A party worth nearly $1 million, from the lobster to the designer flowers. But my new daughter-in-law Patricia saw it as her personal trophy. 10 minutes before the ceremony, she cornered me. Sônia, your dress is too flash, you. Stealing my spotlight. I've told the planner, you'll sit in the back, row 15. Row 15. At the wedding I was funding. The rage was volcanic. I'm ordering you, she said, or you'll never see Gabriel again. That was it. I smiled coldly. If you don't want me to divide the attention, I won't. I walked out, pulling out my phone. Dr. Rubens, I said to my bank manager, cancel all payments for today's wedding. Catering, band, venue, everything. Patricia ran after me, her face pale. You can't do that. I turned back. I just did. Enjoy the party. Less than 5 minutes after Sônia left the hall, a PIX payment order that Patricia had verbally guaranteed to the wedding planner for the final payment of the jazz band was rejected. The first sign that something was terribly wrong didn't come from Patricia, but from Pedro, the event manager of the Golden Hall. He was accustomed to handling luxury weddings, but never a financial collapse of such magnitude, especially during the arrival of guests. He received an urgent notification from his financial sector. The 300,000 reals check for the whole rental and maintenance services had been stopped. Simultaneously, Dr. Rubens' message, sent via banking protocol, began to flood the inboxes and messaging apps of all the main vendors. It was a formal stop payment notice, citing unilateral withdrawal by the main contracting party Sônia Vasconcelos, due to breach of agreement. The money, which everyone expected to receive immediately after the start of the ceremony, vanished. The chain reaction, the catering, are $150,000. The French chef Antoine, who was personally overseeing the lobster and caviar, received the notification. He did not hesitate. In high-income weddings, the rule is clear: no payment, no service. He ordered his team to immediately stop setting up the hors d'oeuvres tables. The refrigerated truck, full of expensive delicacies, was instructed to keep its doors closed. The jazz band, 50,000 reals. The band leader Max was tuning his saxophone when the message arrived. Furious, he stood up from the mounted stage. In a loud voice, to the sound and lighting technicians, who were also panicking over the stop payment notice on their checks, he shouted, "The music is over. Tear everything down. We don't play for free. Decoration. Flowers are $100,000. The florist, Elvira, a temperamental woman who had worked 48 straight hours assembling the arches of Colombian roses and rare orchids, was standing next to Patricia when the wedding planner, the poor man Sônia, had tried to send to row 15, whispered the news. Elvira's face turned red with anger. Mrs. Vasconcelos guaranteed me this payment today. If the money isn't in the account, my flowers are going back to the greenhouse. Patricia, still at the entrance of the hall, seeing the first guests enter and the ceremony about to begin, was in shock. The wedding planner, desperate, tried to calm her, but the bride was paralyzed by terror and rage. "Call her, Gabriel," she screamed at the groom, who finally appeared, confused, after the photo session. But Gabriel could only stare at the unfolding chaos. Antoine, the chef, began covering the food trays with plastic wrap. Max and his band were unplugging the amplifiers on the main stage. Pedro, the manager, was on the phone with internal security, asking them to start monitoring the situation, fearing a disturbance. Sônia canceled everything, Gabriel whispered, reading the stop payment notification on Pedro's cell phone. Show actually did it. At this moment, Elvira, the florist, began furiously dismantling one of the large entrance faces. Patricia ran up to her, her veil fluttering. "What are you doing?" "Stop, my flowers." Patricia grabbed a bouquet. "These aren't your flowers, girl. They are my flowers, and you haven't paid for them." Elvira yanked the bouquet back. "What I can't take, I destroy. You don't humiliate me by making me work for free. This is my profit for a month." Sônia's humiliation was now being reversed into public humiliation for Patricia. Guests from Gabriel's family began to whisper, and Patricia's family looked confused and ashamed. The hall, which minutes ago radiated luxury and promise, now looked like a stage for a logistical Cold War. The silence from the absence of music, mixed with the metallic sounds of tables being disassembled and Patricia's shouts, was deafening. Sonia's revenge was not just a financial blow, it was a surgical strike against Patricia's ego, ensuring that her big day would be remembered by everyone as an epic disaster and a scandal of non-payment. The silence in the ballroom was the most deafening soundtrack imaginable. Patricia was on the verge of a breakdown. Her face, previously perfectly made up for the altar, was streaked with tears and compact powder, the result of the physical fight with the florist. Elvira had already left, taking 3 gigantic vases with her and leaving a trail of trampled petals, a symbol of the ruined party. Gabriel, the groom, finally emerged from his state of shock, but not to defend his bride. He was consumed by anger, but not at Patricia. The rage was directed at the only person capable of such a devastating blow, his mother, Sônia. "Did you call your mother?" Patricia screamed, clutching Gabriel's arm with her nails. "Beg, tell her she won, tell her. I'll sit in the damn row 15. But for God's sake, make these people stop." Gabriel pushed her away. His 15,000 real suit suddenly seemed ridiculous amid the disarray. "That's not how it works, Patricia. My mother is a businesswoman, not a hysteric. She doesn't go back on her word, and if she stopped the checks, it's because you did something unforgivable, or just threw her out of the damn front row. What else did you expect? That I'd let her overshadow my day? It was us against her, Gabriel. You don't understand." The argument, loud and clear, echoed throughout the hall, now filled with about 150 confused guests. Patricia's family, visibly uncomfortable, tried to move away, while Sonia's family and friends watched the scene with a mixture of horror and contained satisfaction. They knew the Queen had taken her revenge. The arrival of the invoices at this point, Pedro, the manager of the Golden Hall, approached seat. He no longer had the subservient demeanor. His eyes reflected the loss his company was about to suffer. "Mr. Gabriel, Miss Patricia," he said, his voice icy. With the check stoppage, the lease and services contract was immediately terminated. The hall is no longer rented. You need to resolve this now. Resolve how? Patricia hissed. "Call the police. Say we were robbed." "Robbery." Pedro almost laughed. "It was your future mother-in-law who issued the stop payment. Senior Vasconcelos sent all the notifications. Right now, the catering service is removing their equipment and the band is leaving. And I need both of you to leave the hall. Leave the hall." Gabriel stammered, finally grasping the gravity. "Yes. And if the party continues for 1 more minute," Pedro pulled out a clipboard. "You will be responsible for all the rental fees and a fine for unauthorized use of the space." As per the contract signed by Mrs. Sônia, the final nail in the party's coffin came from Antoine, the catering chef. He reappeared, holding a covered silver tray, and walked directly to Patricia. "Mademoiselle," Antoine spoke with a heavy French accent, "you demanded lobster. You demanded caviar. Out of courtesy, I saved this last dish, the amuse-bouche." He removed the cover. Patricia looked at the rice, then at Gabriel, then at the 150 guests, who were now watching everything with morbid silence. The altar, adorned with candles, looked like an abandoned theater set. Patricia's dream of luxury had turned into a public farce. "You didn't have the money to pay. Patricia, you expected my mother's payment to come through and that we could live off my salary. You are not the woman I thought you were." Gabriel exploded, accumulated frustration turning into revulsion. Patricia lost control. She ripped the veil from her head, throwing it on the floor, and began hitting Gabriel's chest with clenched fists, screaming, "You're a mummy's boy, a coward, and she hates you. She ruined my life." In that moment, as the distraught bride was restrained by her mother, and the guests silently filed out, Gabriel knew the wedding was over. Sonia's revenge had dissolved not only the party, but the union itself. Sônia was in her penthouse apartment in the Morembe neighborhood, sipping a single malt scotch, the Macallan 25, with coconut water ice. It wasn't an act of public celebration, but a moment of deep, icy satisfaction. She was sitting in front of her marble fireplace, the flames reflecting in her gaze. Her cell phone was silent. but the screen lit up every few seconds with notifications. Not from Gabriel or Patricia, she had blocked both of them for the time being. The messages were from her lawyer, Dr. Rubens, now acting in a legal, not just banking, capacity. And from influential friends who had been at the wedding and discreetly left. The revenge had been swift and brutal. Spit message from Dr. Rubens, 5:30 p.m. Senior, the situation at the Golden Hall is under logistical control. Vendors have left, and the hall has been emptied, per your contract termination order. Patricia and Gabriel have been asked to leave. I have 2 urgent matters. Senior smiled slightly. Under logistical control meant the party had turned into a circus. She typed, proceed. The legal ramifications, the catering lawsuit. Dr. Rubens reported that Chef Antoine, following through on his threat, was filing a lawsuit against all 3 Senior Gabriel. The humiliation dowry. The second point was more personal. Sônia had promised Gabriel as a wedding gift the transfer of 10% of the shares of Tech Solutions into his name, guaranteeing him a secure future and facilitating his transition to leadership. Message from Dr. Rubens, 5:45 Policial Militar. Regarding the chef, Sônia, should I proceed with the wedding gift transfer? The answer came in seconds. No. Cancel all plans for share transfer. Gabriel has not demonstrated the maturity or leadership necessary to inherit the company. He allowed his fiancée to publicly humiliate me. He does not deserve this gift. Prepare documentation for a trust foundation. His assets will be managed by me, under my control, until he proves himself worthy, or until I die. Sônia felt a pang of sadness, but the pain was quickly replaced by conviction. The humiliation Patricia orchestrated didn't just affect Senior, it exposed Gabriel's weakness of character and his lack of loyalty. She would not hand over control of her empire to a man who could undefend his own mother in public. The call of despair, the landline phone, a fixed device Senior rarely used, rang. It was Gabriel. His number was only configured for family emergencies. Senior answered on the 3rd ring. Her voice was calm, devoid of emotion. Senior mother. Gabriel's voice was broken, filled with desperation and repressed anger. You ruined everything. The police were almost called. Patricia is hysterical. The chef is suing us. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking, Gabrielle, Sônia replied, pausing to take a sip of whiskey, that you are the son of Senior Vat. The bride you chose tried to treat me like trash at my own investment. I didn't ruin your party. Patricia ruined your family, and I merely let her bear the immediate consequences. Gabriel tried to argue, blaming her for being vengeful and over the issue. Told me to sit in row 15. Gabriel, the mother who gave you everything. She continued, ignoring his protests. Do you know the difference between a guest in row 15 and a financier? The financier holds the power of the stop payment. You chose your bride poorly, Gabriel. And now, you will have to pay for that choice. And by the way, the Tech Solutions share gift has been cancelled. You'll need your entire salary to deal with Antoine's lawsuit and the hall fines. Senior hung up before he could respond, leaving the dial tone ringing on the line. The victory was hers, but it tasted bitter. She had saved her empire from Patricia's control, but lost the last illusion of having an easy relationship with her son. Nights fell over snow, polo, and the luxurious Golden Hall was eerily empty. Save for a small pile of unopened wedding gifts near the service entrance, ignored by guests in their hurried stampede. Patricia and Gabriel, humiliated and covered in sudden debt, were back at the modest apartment Patricia shared with a friend. The expensive wedding dress, now torn and smeared with makeup, lay on the floor. They hadn't exchanged a word on the way there. The dissolution of the engagement, Patricia sat on the edge of the bed, sobbing convulsively. But her eyes showed more rage than sorrow. Her mother is a monster, she hissed. She stole 800,000 reals. We are going to the press. Gabriel, we will expose that woman. Gabriel stood, looking out the window. The warmth of love, which had made him ignore his mother's warnings, had completely evaporated. He was seeing Patricia not as a wife, but as a financial deadweight and a destructive force. She didn't steal anything. Patricia, the money was hers, and she just prevented it from ending up in the vendors' accounts. As the contract was breached, Gabriel spoke, his voice low, cold, and emotionless. And if you go to the press, my mother has a legal team that will crush you for defamation. She has all the proof that she paid for everything and that you humiliated her. Patrícia stood up, incredulous. You are defending her. After everything she did, I am defending my future. Patrícia, Antoine's lawsuit is for 150,000 reals. The hall rental owes us another fortune, and I just lost the Tech Solutions inheritance. My salary barely covers my basic life expenses. I have no way to pay for your lobster and caviar debts. Gabriel faced her. The revelation about the cancellation of the share transfer hit Patrícia like an electric shock. She wasn't just losing the wedding, she was losing the key to Sônia's $800 million empire. You stupid coward, you should have told me she was crazy. I wasted 3 years of my life on a mama-s boy who can barely afford his own suit. Gabriel didn't react to the insults. He simply took the engagement ring off his finger and placed it on the small dresser next to the bed. The ring stays here, and I'm leaving. There is no wedding. There is no future. You got what you wanted, knew Sônia the party, and now you won't have Gabriel in your life. He picked up his suitcase, which had been brought to Patrícia's apartment for the first night, and left. Closing the door with finality, the reckoning Sônia vexus Patrícia. The next day, Sônia went to Tech Solutions as if nothing had happened. Mid-morning, her office security notified her Patrícia was in the lobby, demanding to see her, threatening to make a scene. Sônia agreed to receive her, but not in her main office. She received her in the cold legal conference room. Patrícia walked in, wearing yesterday's clothes and with swollen eyes. She looked small and defeated. You will pay for this, Sônia, Patrícia began, her voice faltering. You destroyed my life. My wedding. Sônia sat at the head of the long mahogany table. Dr. Rubens and 2 other lawyers strategically positioned around her. She offered Patrícia neither water nor a seat. Your wedding. Patrícia, you destroyed your own wedding the moment you asked me to sit in row 15. You mistook my investment for my submission, Sônia said, with the calm of a judge delivering a sentence. Patrícia tried to cry, but Sônia cut her off. What do you want? I want you to pay the debts and to transfer the shares to Gabriel. At least he can help me get out of this mess. Sônia shook her head, gesturing to Dr. Rubens. Dr. Rubens has 2 documents for you, The first is a formal notice of a lawsuit for damages, representing my son Gabriel, who is being sued by the vendors. He is suing you for moral damages and for causing him to incur exorbitant debt, Patrícia gasped. The second document is a conciliation agreement. Sônia leaned forward, fixing Patrícia with a penetrating gaze. You choose. Either you get the money back, sign, and disappear. Or you go to legal war with Tech Solutions and end up with debts of almost 1 million reais. Patrícia, seeing the legal trap and Gabriel's abandonment, knew she had lost. She picked up the trembling pen. She had traded the front row for a legal nightmare and a sentence of silence. With a non-disclosure agreement NDA signed, Patrícia became a non-person. She received a nominal amount to cover what was left of her personal expenses, in addition to Sônia liquidating the vendor debts, and vanished from Gabriel's life and the Snow Polo social circle, fulfilling her sentence of silence. Sônia's revenge was complete. Gabriel's reconstruction. Gabriel was broken, too. Not financially, but emotionally. He had lost his engagement, his mother's trust, and, most importantly, the promise of inheriting Tech Solutions in the near future. He returned to the luxurious apartment Sônia had bought for him years ago, a lavish refuge that now felt like a gilded cage. Sônia, after weeks of calculated silence, called Gabriel for a formal meeting in the company's boardroom. The wedding is over. A debt to Patrícia has been paid. Your debt to me, Gabriel, is something else, Sônia said, sitting at the head of the table where Patrícia had signed her defeat. She placed the Trust Foundation documentation in front of him. The shares are safe. If you had inherited the company today, Patrícia would have accessed them somehow. Jew would have married her, and she would have destroyed everything. My masterstroke was not ruining the party, but exposing the truth about her before it was too late. Sônia explained that the lesson wasn't about money, but about loyalty and power. Patrícia humiliated you by humiliating me because she knew I was the only real power in your life. And you failed to defend me, Sônia continued. From today on, you are not just in the marketing department. You are on the Risk and Compliance Committee. You will learn exactly how Tech Solutions defends itself from predators, whether they are business partners or ambitious brides. You will work double. And there will be no inheritance until you prove you understand the meaning of power and responsibility. Gabriel, for the first time, did not argue. He had seen his mother's power in action, a cold, surgical, and effective power. He accepted the sentence. He knew that if he wanted to take the throne, he would first have to become his mother's most loyal warrior. Sônia's legacy in the following months, Gabriel immersed himself in work, focused on regaining Sônia's respect. He did not call Patrícia, nor did he talk about the ruined wedding. He was learning to be a ruthless businessman, under his mother's strict tutelage. At a business dinner, a colleague asked Sônia about the wedding scandal. Sônia, who now enjoyed a new level of respect in her social circle for her iron fist, smiled. It was a steep price, but necessary. I paid for the entire party. Yes, but by canceling the payments, I received the best gift of all, Sônia stated, looking at Gabriel, who was diligently discussing the terms of a merger agreement. And what was the gift? I bought my son back. And I taught him the most valuable lesson of all. Money is the ultimate power, but reputation is your armor, she concluded. Sônia and Gabriel never regained a warm mother and son relationship, but they established an unbreakable partnership based on mutual respect and the recognition of Sônia's power. Patrícia became a whispered legend, the bride who lost an empire over a first-row seat. Sônia, the mother who proved that, in her world, humiliation is not just answered, it is liquidated with interest.